This morning, we just want to take some time to do something a bit different and a bit special, to pause and to honour the beautiful, the complex, and the sacred journey of motherhood. And this morning, I've invited Liz and Elisa to join me to share some of their story. This morning, we're going to share some of our stories of motherhood and hopefully just give you a glimpse into the stories of our lives, but where our prayer and our encouragement as we share our stories, that you would be encouraged, but also that perhaps there'll be something that you can resonate with, because each of us has a motherhood journey, whether we're male or female, whether we are mothers of children of our own, or whether we play a role of coming alongside, nurturing others in some other capacity. We all have a story of motherhood. Everyone has a mum or had a mum. And so this morning, we want to take some time to honour those moments. And this morning, we're going to have a bit of a conversation about some of the joys, the challenges, and the lessons that we have learnt through our motherhood journeys. And I could invite any one of you, particularly women this morning, up onto this stage to share your story. But we had to just choose a few this morning. And so we've picked some unique journeys, and we hope that through sharing our stories this morning, it will encourage you and inspire you and perhaps bring you some hope on your journey of motherhood. And so this morning, firstly, I'd love to ask each of us just to share a little bit about our motherhood journey and a little bit about ourselves. So Liz, we'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Naomi. First of all, I'd like to honour my mum, who was a wonderful woman of God. She, through very difficult times, kept her faith and showed us the love of God. And also want to honour Jim's mum, another wonderful woman of God. And she loved her family and she loved her Lord. And so I'm very grateful to come out of that history and heritage of wonderful mums. About my journey, I was very, very young. I had 3 children by the time I was 23 years. So I did start very young. Jim and I were married in Geelong, and there's so much I could tell you, but I'll try and keep it as brief as I can. We moved not long after we were married and had Fiona. We moved up to Bendigo. Jim was offered a job up there that he could not refuse. And so we moved up to Bendigo. I knew no one. I was 2.5 hours from my family and my friends. Jim would go off to work every morning and I'd be left alone with this little baby, and that was my life. I couldn't drive. I didn't have my licence, so I was just at home. We had no neighbours. We were in a new estate. So it was tough. It was really hard. And I really didn't know how to be a mum. I kind of learned on the job. And thankfully, we managed to scrape through. So I had 3 children. Fiona was born in Geelong, and then the 2 boys were born in Bendigo. I always knew from a very early age that I was loved by God. But it wasn't until this time in Bendigo, where I was so alone, that my faith became real. And Jesus became my best friend. And he still is. So that was my start of my motherhood journey. So I mentioned Fiona. She is our eldest daughter. She lives in Sydney with her husband Craig and her 2 children, Jack, who is 25, and Emily is 22. Then we have my David, my youngest son. He lives in Melton with his wife Julie and their daughter Erin, who is 18. Corey, my daughter-in-law, lives in Brisbane and she has 2 beautiful boys, Jesse, who is 14, and Isaac is about to turn 12. We lost our middle son, Scotty, about 5.5 years ago to cancer. Jim and I have been married for 52 years now, and I could tell you so many amazing stories of how the Lord God has journeyed with us, watched over us, cared for us, and showed in so many ways that he loves us. So that's a very brief overview.
Thanks, Liz. What about for you, Elisa? Tell us a little bit about your story.
My story is a lot shorter because I've only got young kids at the moment. So for me, I grew up in the southeast suburbs of Melbourne. I met my now husband, Wes, when I was 18 and we got married at 20. For us, we always wanted to have kids, but I was in no rush being so young. So my motherhood sort of journey started when I thought I was accidentally pregnant after my cycle came a little bit later than usual. And we just got thinking about how could we make adjustments to our lives to welcome in a little baby. And we started dreaming about what life would be like with a young one in tow. And then when we found out that we weren't pregnant, we felt that sense of disappointment. And we're like, oh, I think we're ready to be parents. So that's what started us on the journey of actually wanting to have kids. I've now been blessed with 3 beautiful kids. I've got Laura, who's 7, Caleb, who's 5, and Holly, who's 2.5. And for me, pregnancy, it was quite hard. We had hyperemesis for all 3. So it really takes a village to raise a child, but it took a village to also have a child for us. Mum and Wes really held the boat through that stage. And lots of friends and family got around us, provided us with meals and took care of my kids while I was in bed for a decent period of time. We moved to Geelong just before we had Laura, so our oldest daughter. And for me, that was... We only knew my mum and Graham, her husband, but we joined a community mothers group, and that was just the biggest blessing for me. We still go out for dinners now. We still go on annual weekends away, and they've been a huge support in my motherhood journey, sharing the highs and sharing the lows. Yes, I think for me, motherhood's really been marked by that sense of community in comparison to your story, where we've had playgroups, we've had mothers groups, we've had kinders and schools, and I've got to make some really special friends through all those areas. And it's been marked by, I guess, a bit of personal growth as well, where I've reflected on how I was raised as I'm raising my kids now, and just, coming to realise, why do I do the things that I do, and reassess that and get healing from that. And also find contentment in the simple things. I think the kids have taught me just to really enjoy being present with them. So that's a bit about me.
That's awesome. Thanks, Elisa. Well, my journey starts off similar to Liz's at the beginning, in that I have been blessed with a beautiful mum. I've been surrounded by wonderful grandmothers, aunties, and also with people in the church that were mother figures to me. Since I was a little girl, I could just reel off. This morning, I was thinking of the names of the people, of Vivian, of Nancy, of Julie, of Maggie, of Dawn, all these women that have played a vital role in coming alongside me and mothering me. And so in that way, I could not be more blessed with the mothers that I have had around me. But my motherhood journey is very, very different to Liz and to Elisa's. I grew up with my biggest dream being to be a mum. From a little girl, I would always play games where I would have like multiple babies. They were teddies and they were dolls, but that was the games that my sister and I would play. And it was always the biggest desire of my heart. Growing up, I didn't really have any career ambitions. I just wanted to grow up, get married and have children. And that was my dream. But my life hasn't turned out that way. And so that's what marks my motherhood journey, is that it's very different to what I'd hoped and dreamed of. I went off to uni. I studied, I went to Bible college, and then I ended up going to England, working in England for a few years, coming home, and all the while hoping and praying that I would meet some wonderful man, get married, and start a family of my own. I saw my younger sister doing that, and there was always a sense of disappointment that that hadn't happened for me. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s, well into my 40s, that I finally met a wonderful man in Brett, who's on the front row over here. And yes, he is a good man. He deserves a clap. And when I met Brett, he had 3 teenagers ranging from 15 to 18. Very quickly, we decided, over about a year, we made the decision to get married, and I became the stepmom to 3 amazing kids. It's not been without its challenges, but if there have been challenges, the challenges of blending a family are huge, but it has also been wonderful to actually get to walk alongside these kids and to become more of a friend than a mother. They have a mum. I'm a friend that gets to journey with them on that journey. And it's just been such a blessing to do that. I've also, I think, just been blessed to be able to walk along so many other women as well, like women walked alongside me in that capacity of just caring for me and nurturing me. I've had that opportunity as well. And that just brings so much joy to me. So while my motherhood journey is not the traditional one, I'm really grateful for what I do have and the opportunities that I have. Well, just briefly, let's just share some of the joys that you have found in motherhood. What brings joy to you as a mother?
Oh, there's been lots of joys, experiences. It's one of the most rewarding gifts from God. The joy of birthing and then seeing these beautiful little children grow and just sitting back and watching all that happen. Experiencing family life, realising the great privilege and responsibility it is to be a mum. Celebrating their achievements and having a deep pride in the wonderful people that they are becoming. Watching each of my children get married. Jim had the privilege of marrying each one of our kids. Watching them then go on and have their own children. Grandchildren are the best. Last year we went to our granddaughter Erin's Deb Ball, and that was such a lovely time to experience that with her. We lived in Taree for a number of years before we came back to Geelong to retire. So Taree's about halfway between Sydney and Brisbane. So that meant that our grandchildren from Sydney were able to come up during the school holidays for a time, and we have many, many happy memories of that time in Taree. And just recently, my granddaughter Emily wrote me a letter, and in it she said, "I want to find out more about you." And so we've been writing letters to each other, and she would ask me questions about my childhood or my family as I was growing up. And it's just been such a wonderful experience for me to have that connection with Emily, but also for me to remember and go back and remember all those wonderful experiences that I had as I was growing up. So it's been a really precious time. And
Thanks, Liz.
because they live so far away, just hearing their voices over the phone. And because I have such a poor memory, I have lots of photos that I surround myself with to remember all them and just, everything. Yeah.
Thank you, Liz.
Sorry,
That's
I
great.
took
No,
too
that's
long.
okay. No, it's wonderful. What about you, Elisa?
I think for me, it's seeing their personalities emerge and just seeing them master new talents, seeing them feel happy and secure and just loved in their different environments. Even seeing that bond, even with my mum and my kids, like I just love seeing that grandparent bond form and how much I just cherish her. But I think the most important things for me is just those true moments of connection that I find the most joy in, when we have nowhere to be, nothing to do, and we get to enjoy each other's company without distraction. That's been a real blessing, and those little snuggles and cuddles and just the kind things that the kids can spontaneously say. So a quick example is even with Mother's Day, he's a real gifts man, so he loves his presents, and I was just wondering whether that's his love language. And he came home from kinder with his little bag that he'd made his little kinder present for Mum. And he said, you can't have it until Mother's Day. I have to wait for the morning of Mother's Day to give it to you. And he's been really excited and counting down the days till he can give me this gift. So I said to Wes, gifts must be his love language. Like, he just wants to give me this gift. And he overheard that conversation. He said, no, Mum, I just really love you. And I was like, Caleb, you know how to make a woman feel special. So just those little moments are the things that really bring joy to me. Yeah.
And for me, I love being part of a family. I'm so grateful that I get to be part of the Vale family. Our family is growing. 2 of the kids are now married. 1 has a girlfriend. And so the family is growing, and I love just the sense of belonging within that family. And even though it's not a family that I gave birth to, it's a family that I belong in. And getting to celebrate the moments of joy that the kids are going through, coming alongside them at times, encouraging them on their journey. Brett and I pray for them every night, or most nights, before we go to bed. And to just journey alongside them, to build a friendship and to be able to celebrate the good moments for them, but also to have them, like recently when I preached in church, 4 of them were here just to be alongside me. And that brought so much joy to my heart, just that sense of belonging, knowing that they're there for me as I'm there for them. And we had a bit of fun recently. We went across, 2 of the kids asked us to go to New Zealand with them on holidays. And so we did that just a couple of weeks ago. And when we came back, the kids had decided, like we do, still an Easter egg hunt for 23 to 28-year-olds every year. They decided to hide these little ducks around the house. They won't admit to it, but we keep finding ducks in every corner of the house, behind the conditioner bottle, in my handbag, in the teapot, like for the last week. I think there's still plenty out there, but it's just fun to be part of a family where we have fun together and we belong and we know we've got each other's backs, and so that brings great joy to me. Look, we're going to have to do this a bit quicker than I'd hoped, but what's been the most challenging season of motherhood? And probably, Liz, you've probably had one of the most challenging.
As I mentioned before, we lost our son Scotty about 5.5 years ago. He had a very rare form of bowel cancer and was given a diagnosis that he would not survive at the very beginning of when we found out. So it was a time of great heartache, and his boys were so young, and he just adored Corey. To get through this time, I started journaling. I've never done it before, but I needed to somehow express words that I was feeling, and it's just one page, won't take long. It's now February, nearly March, and there are days when it just doesn't seem real. My Scotty left us on the 18th November 2019. This is all very strange and weird and new. I've never had these feelings before. Talking about him seems strange. I'm talking about him in the past tense. And sometimes I catch myself talking about him as if he's still alive. If someone asks me, how many children do I have? What do I say? 2 or 3? I miss him ringing up and saying, "Hi, Mum." I miss his funny jokes and his comics he used to send me. Geelong played a practice game yesterday in Brisbane, and he would have gone and taken the boys. Then he and Pa would have talked all about the game over the phone and how terrible Geelong played. How do I process all of this? For months we lived with the questions. How long do we have him with us? How is it all going to play out? There was fear and many questions. All that is now gone. It's all in the past. That burden has been lifted but has been replaced with an emptiness. He's gone. Things will always be different. And just to add to that, Thursday we had our seniors get together with Richard, Pastor Richard, and we were talking about Job, and I just briefly shared about our heartache about Scotty, and Pastor Richard said something that has been so helpful to me with my many questions of why, and he said that God answers our questions with his presence and his promises. After 5.5 years, I can't begin to tell you what that simple sentence has meant to me. I know God has travelled with us during that time. He's been ever so close. His presence has been the strength that I've needed. I knew it all up here and down here to a degree, but now, through those words, I can rest with all that's happened.
Thank you so much for sharing, Liz. It's powerful, isn't it, to hear that? What about for you, Elisa? What are the challenges that you've had, and what have you learned about God in that process?
I think for me, my challenges obviously aren't as big as what you've experienced, Liz, but it's being with 3 young kids. It's that every day managing different schedules, tiredless, no sleep, all that sort of stuff, different demands and all that sort of thing, which I think for me, it's just helping remember that the kids aren't trying to give me a hard time. They're usually just having a hard time and trying to come with a level of curiosity in regards to that. But I'd say an event for me, I'm just thinking, is the one that I shared with Laura. When she was 4, we recognised that she wasn't hearing us properly. So we took her to a hearing test and she had moderate to severe hearing loss in both of her ears. At the time, we just had Holly, so I wasn't really focused on Laura. And then I realised that she actually can't hear when I say her name. And I went to a kindergarten teacher and just asked, have you noticed anything different with Laura? They mentioned that she's actually been playing a lot by herself, hasn't been engaging as much, not her bubbly personality that she usually is at kinder, which for me, hearing that made me feel really sad. We took her to the doctor. The doctor said, you're going to have to see an ENT to try and get that all fixed. So we got the referral, called up all the ENTs in Geelong, and being in such high demand these days, it was a 5 to 6 month waiting list. Which for me at that time, I was like, oh, it's such a prime time for her in her development, her social skills and all that sort of stuff. I really don't want to wait 5 to 6 months to see an ENT. So we were praying. My mum was praying. She's a real prayer warrior. And she got a sense that we were going to be seen in 2 days' time. And I was like, oh, I'll pray for that and I'll agree with that and I'll hope for that. But she prayed believing that was going to be the case. And I sent around emails in the meantime to all the ENTs sharing my story of how I experienced and how Laura was being affected by this. And as Mum said, the next day I got a phone call saying there's been a cancellation. We'd love to see Laura. We received your email and we really want to, help Laura out. So we got seen. This was all around December time. So she got her operation done before Christmas and the rest is history, and we're just so thankful to God for that too, and for Mum for being that, carrying that faith for us when I couldn't do it myself.
That's awesome. Mums play such a pivotal role, don't they? Well, very briefly, for me, I guess the biggest challenge has been navigating the loss of actually being a mum, a biological mum. That's been a big loss for me, and I've had to learn to grieve that. And there's been moments a couple of years ago in church, well, no, more than a few years ago in church, I remember just sitting in church and sobbing as I grieved that I would never have children of my own. I've been blessed, but there was a sense of grief and loss. And I still carry that. Even today, there's moments around Mother's Day where it becomes hard because I will never get to experience that for myself. I sit in home groups sometimes, even recently in a mum's group, and I see all these mums and hear their stories, and it's something that I will never get to experience for myself. And so I guess the lesson I've learned through this season is that God's with me in the losses. He's with me in the grief, and he wants to hear my heart. And I've learned as I have given my grief, as I've given those losses to him, that he's met me in that place. He's met me, he's comforted me. I read the Psalms of David where he lamented and he gave what he was grieving to God, and God met him in that place. And that's what I've experienced myself. And I think in the last few years, what I have learned is that it's possible to hold joy and it's possible to hold grief at the same time. And I know for many of you in this room today, that's where you might be today. There's the joy of one aspect of the motherhood that you have, but there's also the grief of another. And I've just learned that God doesn't expect me to be strong all the time. He knows that I'm weak. He knows I experience loss, but he wants me to be real with him and to share with him all that I have been through and all that I'm going through. And I'm just so grateful that he meets me in the middle of that. And so, yes, that's, I guess, this morning, our motherhood journeys. And I hope that there's something from that you're able to resonate with that will encourage you and bring hope to you today. Thank you, Elisa.
Can we give them all a hand, please?